Today on The Spin, the college football playoffs head to the quarters. We have a classic in the Rose Bowl and a huge matchup in the NFC North. It's all next on The Spin. Hello, my friends. Ali Melendez here, and welcome to Sports Insider's The Spin. Thanks so much for joining us. Today on The Spin, the college football playoff has reached the quarterfinals after an opening round that produced pretty much blowouts across the board. So what can we expect on New Year's? Well, we'll find out in just a minute with Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard. And of course, we're going to hear from the guys on week 17, oh my goodness, of the NFL as the postseason is just around the corner. Where is time going? First, though, a quick shout out to our BFFs at BetOnline. Now, all of our odds here on The Spin are provided by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and #1 source for everything football. So thanks again to BetOnline. We love you guys. All right, it's the college football playoffs on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Here now is Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard. Welcome, fellas, and happy holidays.
Thanks so much, Allie. Happy holidays to you. Happy holidays to everybody out there tuning into the Spin Sports Insiders. Join alongside my man, Gabe Ikard. We are taking a look at the college football playoff quarterfinal matchups coming up on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And Gabe, we've got some awesome games on deck. So let's dive right into it. Starting with the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. This game is New Year's Eve, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff, featuring Penn State and Boise State. Right now, Penn State an 11-point favorite. The total here, 52. Penn State, pretty impressive over SMU in the first round.
No doubt about it. And I think that they're playing their best football. I really like what we've seen from Drew Aller in his last couple of games. Now, I'm going to be sick and tired of how many times they show Boise State beating Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl like forever ago. It happened forever ago, guys. Get over it. But I think there's a strange pressure on Boise State in this game. A lot of conversation about seeding and all these things. And Boise State's out there representing the entire group of five in this thing. I think Penn State's going to have a plan for Ashton Jeanty. I think he's going to struggle to get going. And I just don't know if Maddox Madsen will be able to make all the throws to keep Boise close in this one. I think Penn State's really, really talented. And I think that's a confident team that sees a path to a possible national championship game. So I think Penn State's going to be at its best. I'll lay the points with the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, very interesting spot indeed, not only for Boise State, but for Penn State as well. The Big Ten big winners during the first round. Of course, great home field advantage up in Happy Valley for the Nittany Lions. And then, of course, in the horseshoe for Ohio State, some dominant performances by both Penn State and Ohio State. Now it's, can the Big Ten continue the roll and make sure everybody knows that they are the premier conference in college football? And Boise State, to your point, Gabe, really holding the fort down for all of the group of five teams. Could that long wait with the bye week as the Mountain West champions maybe prove to slow things down for Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State offense? Look, for all of the love that Penn State's offense gets, Drew Aller playing some really good football right now, a dynamic duo at the running back position with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. It was the defense for the Nittany Lions that really flexed their muscles and show that they are in a totally different tier when SMU came to town. 2 pick sixes. Really, that game was out of hand extremely early. Within the first quarter, that was a dud, to say the least. But this is what Penn State does. James Franklin and Penn State, when they're favorites, Gabe, they take care of business. Since the start of the 2022 season, James Franklin at Penn State, 32-1 straight up as a favorite. This is a bigger number. There's no doubt about it. But I really do believe that Penn State's defense, with the momentum that they got from a week ago, whooping up on SMU, is going to be able to come into this matchup in Arizona, in Glendale. I'm sure the Penn State fans will travel very well and put up a fight against Ashton Jeanty in that heavy run attack from Boise State. I'm on the exact same side of you. I think Penn State is playing a really good brand of football right now. You know they're going to run the ball. They're going to try to slow down Ashton Jeanty, which is no small feat. But I think later on in the game, Gabe, they're able to get this one out of reach. I expect 3/4 of a tight battle. I think Penn State scores late. They cover this number. So I am on the same side as you. I will lay 11 points with Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State finds themselves in the college football playoff semifinals. All right, speaking of great days for football, New Year's Day is going to be absolutely fantastic. Things kick off in Atlanta, Georgia at the Peach Bowl, 1 p.m. kickoff time, Eastern. Texas against Arizona State. Texas, a monster 13.5-point favorite here. This totals 52 points.
I'm taking the points with the Sun Devils.
Okay.
I believe in Kenny Dillingham. I believe in Cam Scadaboo. I believe in Sam Levitt. But I do think Texas is going to win the game.
Okay.
They're just too talented. And I think things could be tough for Scadaboo against that Texas rush defense. I don't think Texas is going to be able to run the ball the way that they did against Clemson. I mean, nearly 300 yards rushing in that game for the Longhorns. I imagine Arizona State will provide a little more resistance than that and maybe force Quinn Ewers to make some more throws. He really was just taking a bunch of layups. Now he had the nice one to Helm in the red zone for the touchdown. But other than that, Ewers just got to manage the game against Clemson. Arizona State has to force Quinn Ewers to beat him. And if he does it, hey, you can live with it. But I just think that Kenny Dillingham will have that team prepared. That team has played with a ton of energy, a ton of effort. And Texas is a little banged up in some areas. We saw them lose 2 starters along the offensive line in that game against Clemson. Now I expect Jake Majors to be back for this one, but that stuff matters. I think Texas is better. I think they'll win, but I think Arizona State has talent in the proper places to keep this thing close. So I'm going to take the points with the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I think it's tough not to see 13.5 points for Arizona State, a team that's playing some of the best football in the entire country right now, and look the other way and think that Texas is going to be able to walk in there after the injuries that they sustained in that Clemson game 10 days or so ago. Wisner, the running back, got hurt also after the game. Head coach Steve Sarkisian said, hey, they probably could have gone back in, but obviously that game was well in hand for the Longhorns, so they did not want to risk further injury. But it's a team that's banged up. Quinn Ewers dealing with the oblique, dealing with the ankle injury as well. And now they got to go back to Atlanta, a place where they played in early December in the SEC championship game. If they win the Peach Bowl game, they could be back in Atlanta for a third time in about 6 weeks or so if they were to make it to the national championship game, which of course is in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But for all the reasons you said you like Arizona State with the points, so do I. Kenny Dillingham has his team playing with their hair on fire. When you're running the football with the effectiveness that Cam Scadaboo is, it's just a tough train to stop. They've got so much momentum. You know better than anybody as an offensive lineman. When you have that confidence to be able to run the ball at will, and then as a quarterback, Sam Levitt's able to play off the play action, take some shots downfield, and continue to get first downs and grind out games. It is tough. And when you look at a big number like 13.5 points, you would just have to think that, yes, of course, Texas, one of the best defenses in the country. Quinn Ewers, a great offensive play caller and a passer as well. I got to go with Arizona State here. 13.5 points. I think that's too many. Clemson kind of stubbed their toe a couple of times. I thought Clemson should have covered that game as well. Texas, of course, took care of business, winning by 2 touchdowns. But give me those Big 12 champion Arizona State Sun Devils to cover this number. I think some things could get a little weird in this matchup. We touched on all the blowouts in the first round. Look, they're a heavy favorite. There's no doubt about it. But I think Texas wins. Arizona State covers. Give me 13.5 points with the Sun Devils in the Peach Bowl. All right, let's go to the Rose Bowl. What is usually a Pac-12 Big Ten matchup is now a Big Ten matchup. Ohio State taking on Oregon in a rematch, which was one of the best football games of the 2024 regular season. New Year's Day, 5 p.m., Pasadena. You know exactly what to expect. Right now, Ohio State, a 2.5-point favorite, the only undefeated team in the country, the number 1 ranked team in the nation, coming in as an underdog. Ohio State, a 2.5-point favorite. Gabe, this totals 54 points.
What a gift for the number 1 seed to get Ohio State off their best performance of the season, to get Will Howard off the best performance of his college football career. I can't wait for this game. I think that the argument can be made that this is the national championship game. Wow. I think these are the 2 best teams that are left, and I cannot wait to watch them go at it. Ohio State dismantled Tennessee. It wasn't close. That version of Ohio State is the best team in the country. But it's hard to imagine that version of Ohio State shows up again. It's hard to replicate a performance like that And this is the thing about Oregon. They've had extra time to prepare. They're going to be very, very confident coming into the game because they've already beaten Ohio State. And they got playmakers, man. Dylan Gabriel has playmakers all over the field. And I think that they can challenge that Ohio State defense in ways that Tennessee simply couldn't. Give me the Ducks.
Okay.
Dan Lanning is going to use that line as fuel. Oh, no one believes in us. We've already beat this team and still no one thinks we're any good. He is going to play that up, and they are going to be ready to go in the Rose Bowl. I like Oregon to win the game. I'll take them to win the game, and clearly I'll take those points as well.
All right, Gabe, we are aligning in our picks for the College Football Playoff Quarterfinals. I love Oregon as an underdog as well. You mentioned Dan Lanning. He is an extremely successful motivator. That has been well documented over social media all season long. Oregon has simply come to play week in and week out. And yes, in this Rose Bowl matchup, going to be a phenomenal uniform matchup as well. The aesthetics of this atmosphere will be incredible. But the Oregon Ducks, the only undefeated team in the country, the #1 overall seed in the college football playoffs, coming in as underdogs. I think there might be a little bit of recency bias here. Yes, Ohio State absolutely dismantled Tennessee. That was the worst game of the weekend, a game that I thought would simply be the best, and it was because Ohio State's offense performed at such a high level. Will Howard, as you said, best performance of the season. Jeremiah Smith, best wide receiver in the country. There's no doubt about it. They were desperate. It was an urgent spot for the Buckeyes. They had to perform after that disaster against Michigan to end the season, keeping them out of the Big Ten championship game. I like Oregon here. I like them a lot. They're the best team in the country for a reason. They're the only undefeated team in the country for a reason. That Week 7 matchup, when Will Howard slid with 14 seconds left, they couldn't stop the clock. Yeah, it was a brain fart. Yes, of course, it cost Ohio State the game. But I think Oregon is a team that can step up in this moment. I think they match up well with Ohio State. Also, Ryan Day in these big spots. Look, I know last Saturday night they were at home. Tennessee might have been a little bit overrated. They might have been out a little bit ahead of their skis, so to speak, Gabe. Oregon will be ready. As an underdog, I love the Ducks. Give me Oregon plus 2.5. Okay, we're 3 for 3. Now we're going to the Sugar Bowl to cap things off for the College Football Playoff quarterfinal matchups. 8:45 p.m. Eastern on New Year's Day. Notre Dame taking on Georgia. Right now, Georgia, a 2.5-point favorite, Gabe. This total lower at 44 points.
I'm going to take Georgia. I just think that Notre Dame has some limitations offensively. I don't think that Notre Dame run game is just going to be able to get rolling against the Georgia defense, even though Georgia's defense isn't quite what we've come to expect of a Georgia defense over these last several years. But Notre Dame not having Riley Mills is a big deal for me. I thought if Notre Dame was going to come in and really compete in this game and possibly win the game, that they would have to force Gunnar Stockton to beat them. And in order to do that, you got to be able to stop the run consistently, and you have to hold up at the point of attack. And Notre Dame is now down several guys in their 2 deep along that defensive line. So that's tough duty for the Irish defense. I'm going to take Georgia, and I was going to take Notre Dame until I saw the Riley Mills injury. I think that's a big one for the Irish. I just don't know if Riley Leonard can produce enough in the passing game. I just think Georgia will be able to lean on them over 4 quarters. So even though Carson Beck's out, even though this Georgia team has been kind of hard to figure out all season long with the ups and downs of their play, I just think that they're going to be fresh. They're going to be determined. They're going to be ready, and they're just going to be a little better than the Fighting Irish. So I'll lay the points with Georgia.
Okay, sound the alarm. We're going 4 for 4. Gabe Ikard and myself. We agree on all 4 picks for the College Football Playoff quarterfinal round. Georgia, a 2-point favorite. I like the Dogs as well. Simply put, I think this is a really good matchup for Georgia. Yes, there's a lot of question marks around the Bulldogs right now. Of course, Carson Beck, starting quarterback, is out. So Gunnar Stockton, who finished the SEC championship game and led Georgia to a victory over Texas, will be making his first start. Yes, this is a big spot, But to your point about Riley Leonard, in the pass game specifically, if Georgia can slow down Notre Dame's rushing attack, I think that plays into the Dogs' favor big time. Now, look, Riley Leonard, a highly effective runner of the football. I believe he had over 700 yards, around 15 touchdowns this season, Gabe. But Georgia historically has had really tough times with the Jalen Milroe types, the Jayden Daniels types, the really fast twitch, speedster quarterbacks that can stretch out a defense. Riley Leonard is not that. When he's running the ball, it's by design. Notre Dame wants to ground and pound. They're going to try to out Georgia. I do not think that's a good recipe. And Georgia getting this time off has been huge. One, it allows Gunnar Stockton to get these reps in practice. Two, a couple of their skill guys and on the defense were banged up. They're going to be healthy. And three, when Kirby Smart has had the opportunity to scout a team for weeks in advance, it usually goes very well for the Georgia Bulldogs. Notre Dame actually opened as a 1.5-point favorite in this matchup. It quickly flipped to Georgia. Georgia now settling in at around a 2-point favorite. You mentioned Riley Mills, 7.5 sacks on the season. That is a huge loss for Notre Dame's defense. Not only a production leader, but a leader emotionally and mentally for the Fighting Irish as well. I think this is a really good spot for Georgia. I'm going to lay the 2 points as well for the Dogs. So at 8:45 p.m. on New Year's night, I'm taking the Georgia Bulldogs to cover those 2 points against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. All right, we should have our semifinal matchups set after an amazing quarterfinal round coming up on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We'll be back here on the Spin Sports Insiders to break it all down for you to keep this train rolling. For my man, Gabe Ikard, I'm Drew Butler. Have a happy holiday, everybody. Allie, we'll send it back to you.
All right, now, well, that'll make it a pretty busy New Year's, but listen, I think we can all get through it together. Drew, of course, will be back with us in just a minute with a look at the NFL, but I mentioned this earlier, and I want to bring it back again, you guys. All of our odds here on Sports Insiders The Spin are provided by BetOnline, the world's most trusted sports betting platform. So with the College Football Playoff here, and of course the NFL playoffs just a few weeks away, there's no better place than BetOnline to get in on all the action. Head on over and check them out today. All right, it's another big week in the NFL, of course. Here to break it all down for us, Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas. Welcome, guys.
What's up, Allie? Back again, taking a look at week 17 of the NFL regular season. As always, joined alongside by my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas. Happy holidays to the both of you guys. And it is coming down to the wire. The playoff picture is getting more and more clear, and it will continue to do so through the Christmas week. Let's start with a big-time matchup in the NFC North, which is just a division on fire right now. Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff over on Fox. The Green Bay Packers heading to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Right now, Anthony, the Vikings are 1.5-point favorites. This total sits at 48 points.
Yeah, this has been an outstanding division to watch. Them, Lions, Green Bay. Listen, man, the Vikings got something here lined up for the last week of the season that's going to be really important for this division. And I just think this game is going to mean so much to them. They're at home. Green Bay's been extraordinary this season, and they are a tough opponent. I just think right now that the Vikings are destined to get to where they need to be. Now, it's not the easiest team to play at this point in the season to make that last game mean something, potentially even home field advantage for the Vikings, or the bye even. But I just think from a divisional standpoint, they're primed. They're 8 straight wins. Sam Darnold's been fantastic. They came back and won their last game. This team believes, right? And I think there's something to be said about in that mix with a lot on the line where the last two games of the season really matter. And you got to get this game done and finished and completed to make those goals be reached in that last game of the season. I'm going with the Vikings here, guys. I think, the public in Vegas looks like it's a coin flip. I just see a determined team right now that's looking to finish strong and prove a lot of people wrong, because it doesn't seem like people really believe that much that the Vikings are the best team or potentially are the best team. And I think they're looking out to prove people in these last 2 weeks of the season.
Anthony, you talk about that last game against the Detroit Lions. Am I correct, right? That showdown to see who's going to be the top dog. But before that, they got to get through the Packers first. And the Packers, look, offensively, they lighten it up. They're top 5 in yards per game. They're top 10 in points per game. And Jordan Love, he was just coming back off that MCL injury, the first time those guys play. So they're a better team. He's a better player. Of course, he's healthier than he was. But the Minnesota Vikings, Sam damn Darnold, man,
Yeah.
he's lighting this thing up, man. And we all know about Justin Jefferson, who has 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games. But, between him and Addison, and Sam Darnold just figuring out ways to win games. This Vikings team is a great team right now, and they're going to have a challenge in their hands. But I go ahead and take those points, and I think Vikings will handle themselves at home. Looking forward to that Week 18 matchup with the Lions.
Yeah, you mentioned Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. What about TJ Hawkinson? What about Aaron Jones? I mean, Sam Darnold has a litany of threats that he can distribute the ball to, and he's been doing just that. Jonathan, you talked about that game in September. The Vikings held on to beat Green Bay 31-29. The Vikings got out to a huge lead. Green Bay came storming back in the second half. But obviously, you look back in September and October, and those are the outcomes that are really making a difference in this playoff push at the moment. I like the Vikings in this spot too. Home field advantage is gigantic for Minnesota this late in the season. That US Bank Stadium gets extremely loud. There's no question about it. The one thing that would make me kind of hesitate just a little bit, guys, is that Jordan Love always plays his best football late in the season. But it just seems like, Anthony, to your point, the Vikings are destined right now. They have a real shot to get the number 1 seed. Of course, that's home field advantage and a bye week. I think they're going to be able to get Aaron Jones a little bit more integrated into the game plan. He's been quiet the last couple of weeks. They're going to want to show the Green Bay Packers what they've been missing out on. So I like Minnesota at home too. It's a short number. I'll lay 1.5 with the Vikings against the Packers this Sunday afternoon. How about the game that got flexed into Sunday Night Football? Let's head to Washington. The Atlanta Falcons, who are all of a sudden back on top of the NFC South behind new starting quarterback Michael Penix Jr. He's going to play the probably favorite to win Rookie of the Year. That, of course, is Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders, Anthony, 5-point favorites right now. This total, 46.5 points.
Yeah, listen, huge emotional win for Washington this past week. I mean, to do what they did, to come back, Jayden, we talked about him, Daniels, the way he's played, but in that game and that performance, just an all-time high across the board. Now, listen, Jalen Hurts got hurt, and I think ultimately that was a big factor in this thing. But, everything that went into the post game, me, when I look at those things, man, I just see one thing. I see maybe a little bit of an emotional letdown the following game. Atlanta, you're right. Penix is probably going to get Rookie of the Year. Wouldn't it be ironic, though, if Penix, who's gotten the start now, who I can't remember the last time a rookie starter got to play for a team that was in first place in their division and still meaningful games now. I mean, it just blows my mind. How it's gotten setting up for Penix. And I thought he played really well. And what he needed in that last game was everybody else to really do their job.
Yeah.
And the defense came up big. I think they only gave up 234 total yards. They had 3 turnovers, 2 defensive touchdowns. And I think Penix played a really good, solid game. So there's something to be said about just waiting for your opportunity and now performing. And he's always done that even out of college. So now it's like, oh, here's a matchup. I just think Atlanta's got some things going for him in this game. Yeah, it's on the road. I just feel like there's an emotional pullback. I think Washington wins. But man, I think this is going to be a great game, and it's going to be something for Penix to get really excited about, the Atlanta Falcons fans to get excited about, that they may potentially go on the road and win this football game, but keep it close. I'm going to take those points and go with Atlanta.
Yeah, I hear you, Anthony. Look, I got to see Michael Penix firsthand, man. And, man, that kid has an amazing arm, very accurate. He made some incredible throws. And if I'm not mistaken, I counted 3, possibly 4 drops from the wide receivers. Right, 4 drops, from that game. So, with those numbers that he had, he would even had a better game if the guys would have came through for him, and Drake London has emerged as a really good wide receiver, top tier wide receiver 1. But then Mooney has 20 big plays on the season. He's just a big play waiting to happen. I think that bodes very well for what they want to do with Penix and Bijan Robinson in the run game. Mooney, London, deep down the field, take those shots. But on the other side of it, man, like you said, Commanders, such a tough and gritty comeback win. Jalen Hurts knocked out the game. Jayden Daniels took over. 5 touchdowns, 81 rushing yards, 22 points in the fourth quarter. That is some type of performance by any quarterback, let alone a rookie. I think he's kind of cruising away with the Rookie of the Year. But I'm with you. I think Atlanta keeps it close, but I think the Commanders go ahead and win this game. So give me the points with Atlanta on the road.
I agree with you, Anthony. I think it's a sell high spot for Washington. Coming off that win, 5 turnovers, and they somehow find a way to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. 22 points in the fourth quarter, as you just said, Jonathan. Absolutely incredible. Yes, of course, Jayden Daniels will probably be NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year and very well deserved, but turning around, trying to come down off those high emotions, Sunday Night Football, playoff implications on the line. It just feels like, to me, the Atlanta Falcons have found themselves to be in a pretty advantageous spot, controlling their path to not only make the playoffs, but to host a playoff game as the NFC South champions. I think they match up relatively well against this Commanders team. And what's really being overlooked, guys, is the resurgence of the Falcons defense. This is a team that could not get any pass rush through the first 10, 11 weeks of the season, and they have really turned it on. They had 2 pick sixes against your lowly New York Giants, Jonathan. Sorry for that small dig there. But they're getting after the passer. They're forcing turnovers. And when you play that style of complementary football and you have a running back like Bijan Robinson to take some of that pressure off of Michael Penix Jr., who'll be making his second NFL start, I think the Falcons have a recipe to go into Washington and really grind out this football game. The key is going to be limiting Jayden Daniels on the ground. I think they can do that. Jesse Becht has been playing at a super high level in that Falcons defensive backfield as well. So I like the Falcons here. Give me the 5 points, and I think the Falcons win this football game on Sunday night. All right, let's wrap this long holiday week up with some Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions, who are still fighting for that number 1 overall seed in the NFC, they got to head out to the Bay Area to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, Anthony, the Lions are 3.5-point favorites. This totals 52 points.
Yeah, guys, look, 49ers can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. Double-digit penalties again this past week. They're cooked. I mean, they're not even in a position to be spoilers, in my opinion. Detroit, and the problem with that is Detroit's punch in their mouth game happened 2 weeks ago versus the Bills. Yep. So now they've refocused. They're repositioning themselves, and they understand that last game of the season, they're playing to me, the scenario, playing a team like the 49ers, they are going to handle business in this game. I just think this may be the easiest game for me to pick that we've had in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to lay those points. I'm going to put all that Christmas gift card money over, make it cash so any way I can, and I'm going to lay it on Detroit. I'm going to sit back and watch them cover this. This thing may be over at halftime.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. The 49ers are a mess, man. Like you said, double-digit penalties last week. Purdy has been very inconsistent. Late interception against the Miami Dolphins last week. They gave up 166 yards on the ground. So you look at this Detroit team, man. I mean, they're rolling. They're absolutely rolling. They're most creative play calls that I think I've ever seen in an NFL team. I mean, every single week you're seeing something, and it look like backyard stuff, but it works every single week. You know what's crazy? I looked at this stat, right? Jared Goff is the 4th rated passer on this team. Montgomery's 1 for 1 with a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is 1 for 1 with a touchdown. And Jack Fox, the punter, is also 1 for 1. He's the 4th rated passer on this team. And he's having an incredible year. Sonic Jahmyr Gibbs, with Knuckles being out, with Montgomery, he has, kind of taken that load. And, man, he is a tremendous guy out the backfield. If I had to cover him, I would not be wanting to cover that guy. He's great on the ground, averaging 5.5. He's a threat at receiver. This team is loaded, man. I think they're going to walk away with this. I think they're going to walk into San Fran and beat the brakes off of them.
All right, say less. I got to agree with both of you guys. Lions minus 3.5. It just seems like the 49ers have totally checked out, officially out of the playoff hunt. They're booking their flights to Cancun, Cabo. They're setting up how to make the wives and girlfriends happy as soon as this regular season is over. Injuries, can't run the ball, penalties. You guys hit the nail on the head. These guys are totally checked out. Yes, it's a Monday Night Football game, but the Lions have to go in there and take care of business because everybody knows not only what home field advantage can do, but there's only one bye week for both the NFC and the AFC now. It is extremely important. The Lions got so close a year ago. They know exactly what they need to do. Ben Johnson dialing up some of the most creative stuff that anybody's seen in the last couple of years. And this team really takes the mentality of their head coach, Dan Campbell. He's going to go in there, Anthony and Jonathan. He's going to tell these guys, we've got to take care of business. Let's run the football. Let's be tough on defense. And let's punch an opponent when they're down. That's exactly the opportunity that the Lions have this weekend out in Santa Clara. And I think that they will do just that. So we're all on the same side here. We'll lay 3.5 with the Detroit Lions on Monday Night football. Yeah, buddy. One more week of the regular season after this week. And of course, we'll keep it locked in for you right here on the Spin Sports Insiders. We got the best cover and predictions and analysis of everything that's going down in the NFL. For my guys, Jonathan Casillas and Anthony Becht, happy holidays to everybody. I'm Drew Butler. Allie, we'll throw it back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. No surprises here. It is going to be another amazing weekend in the NFL. All right, my friends. Well, that is all we have for you today. But before I sign off, a huge thank you once again to our friends at BetOnline for providing all the odds on today's show. And I also want to tell you about BetOnline's brand new same-game parlay builder. Here's the deal. Combine full game markets with game and player props to turn a small wager into a huge payout. BetOnline's got thousands of betting options and combinations to choose from. The more selections you add, the bigger the payout. Cha-ching! Now just hit the SGP button when looking at odds in the BetOnline Sportsbook and get in on the action. You deserve it. All right, that is it, my friends. Enjoy what will be a great weekend of football. And of course, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Sports Insiders The Spin.